Hi, I'm Carl, and I'm going to talk today about the Screenio pocket doors. And today we're going to be talking about the Screenio Tech. The Screenio Tech is essentially a pre-made cassette which is designed for easy installation. If you can sort of imagine, when we're talking about a larger project, say like a care home or a hotel where you're doing several doors, you've got the old problem between the cost of buying the product and the cost of actually the guys installing it. This particular product here, it comes largely pre-assembled. You lay it on the floor, you put it together, install it, and away you go. The other one we're going to talk about in a later video is going to be the Screenio kit, and essentially that's going to be a 6-part kit that you then sort of chop and build yourself. A bit more of a skeleton product, exactly the same in far as quality is concerned, same door, same look, same feel, but it's really for perhaps the DIY or the single job where a budget's a bit of an issue and you're looking at pricing and you want the same results. So that's really where the two come into. So this one here, you'll see how wonderfully simple it is. It's pre-assembled. So without further ado, I'm going to get outside, get this box unloaded, pull it apart and talk you through the component parts and how we assemble it. So at this stage here, all we're going to require is to get this frame put together. We're going to get it put together into the wooden opening, and at that point there we can in effect hand it over to the guys who will be plasterbordering or dry lining and finishing off. So all you're going to require for this particular stage here is a hammer, a screwdriver and a few screws supplied. What we have here, we've got in front of me here, we've got this extruded aluminium glide rail. These two galvanised spaces here, which will be disposed of at the end of the job. A bit of timber here, which will be in effect finishing off the frame, and a couple of spaces at the top there, just so we can get a top fixing in there. So without further ado, we'll get this thing assembled and I'll show you how easy it actually is. So the very first job to do now is to get the slide or glide rail inserted in the top of the frame. It's got a bit of it's quite tightly machined, so you get a nice resistance as you push it in. These two galvanised brackets here slide on top of this glide rail, and the idea here is these were the pickups from the top of the stud-work down into the frame, and these simply slide on the end here, 1, 2, and just leave them there. Next stage, you've got these two partially assembled raw plugs with screws, and the idea is that they will pass through the glide rail here into these two pre-drilled holes, and it will then be secured back down with a screwdriver. Next stage is we're going to get these two galvanised spaces which will give you your finished dimensional size. These two bars here just simply slide in, and like I said before, once we're ready to install the door, these get disposed of. So here we are, here's a cassette fully laid out. It took no time at all. We've got the cassette itself, we've got the two space bars, we've got the timber and the aluminium runner. All we need to do now is get it into the studio and get it fixed into the frame itself. So here we are now back in the studio. Behind me here is a ready-made frame. Now for this particular frame here, we've got the OSB board at the bottom here as being the finished floor level. Obviously the widths will change with the kit you buy, but obviously the height depends on what your finished floor will be. So you might be putting some tiles down, you might be putting some carpet down there, you might be putting some thick timber boards down. So at that point there, we need some consideration of what our finished floor is going to be. Next thing we're going to do is get this frame inside the outer frame, get it screwed down the sides, two on the side, two on that side there, two on the top there, and that will allow us to get it in there nice and plumb, nice and flush, ready for the plasterboard.
Once your frame is next to your stud work, simply of the stud work opening.
So we've now got the frame installed. We've got 3 fixings down left-hand side, 3 down the right-hand side, which actually fits into the stillwork with some self-tapping screws, and 2 more along here. Next thing we'll do now is make sure that this is properly aligned. We've actually scrubbed line between the stud works, and once we get it properly aligned, we're going to come down here and we're going to bend these little tabs out. There's 2 this side and 2 the other side, and get a final fix into the floor. We're now going to move on to how to fit a mortised sash lock for a pocket door. Now these are subtly different as opposed to the normal sash lock, because if you measure with an ordinary sash lock, the door will hinge, open and close, and you require a catch, and that catch will then locate into a faceplate or a keeper. With a sliding door, the door in effect pulls back into the frame, so you have something, say for a bathroom or bedroom, to keep it private. And what we actually have in this case is a product like this. On the face of things, it looks very, very similar, but the subtle difference is when you turn the catch, a little hook comes out and actually hooks the door back into the frame. So that way the door won't actually slide back in it. Okay, so the door we're using today is a door by a company called Jambs. Very important this, when you come to positioning your sash lock, it's just to double check with your manufacturer door to find exactly where it goes. And some firms come in a meter, some don't. Mark the center of the lock. So we now have the center of the door marked out nicely. Next thing to do is to actually measure how wide this particular lock is. Saying on here 100 mil, so I'm going to strike a line 50 mil either side of that. So the next task is to mark a dead center line on here for drilling out. This door's 35 mil thick, so it's going to be 17.5 mil on the set square here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is measure how deep the body is. In this case here, it's coming out about 57 millimeters. So as to avoid taking out too much wood, I've come here and I've put a little bit of red tape on here at 60 mil. That allows us to stop each time we go into the block.
Once you have your measurements, it's time to drill out all wood from the block and the door. Start with several holes around 12 millimeters thick from end to end of your lock measurements. Then use a sharp chisel to create an opening for your lock. Next, place the lock into this hole and mark the 2 screw holes either side of the lock and create some pilot holes. Then reattach the lock. With a sharp Stanley knife, make a clear marking around the lock. This is to help when chiseling out the remainder of the lock. Now, using your chisel, slowly and carefully chisel out a shallow recess for the face of the lock. Now, reinsert the lock to ensure the fitting is correct.
We've now got the lock mortised out. We've cut a little rebate here for the face. The next thing we need to do is to offer it up from the side and line it up perfectly and put a mark on the opening of the release here. And the next thing to do now is to, in effect, scribe that across down to the other side, match it through and drill from both sides.
Once drilled through both sides, check to see if your hardware fits snug. Once you're happy with the fitting, you can either use tension clamps or some adhesive to make sure this hardware doesn't go anywhere. Next is to mark out the correct area for your plasterboard nails. We recommend marking the horizontal panels to ensure you drill into the correct place. Now start to attach your plasterboard with the included screws. We recommend using a spirit level and scribing a line from your previous markings to ensure correct screw placement.
As you can see now, the cassette's now fully encased both sides in plasterboard. We've got it tacked out, it's going to be scrimmed. At this stage now is when you're going to be calling in your plasterer, or then give it a coat of plaster, say probably, depending on the time of year, that's 3 or 4 days to dry. Up here is a little slot, and what I recommend you do because things tend to get lost. There's a whole bunch of runners and bits and pieces which are going to be used on a door at that stage. Now I'll just post them through here. Along here is a little bit of polystyrene. It'll fall into there, but at least you know when you come back in a few days' time to do the final fix, you simply drill the rivets out, remove this end plate, and all your bits are inside there. They won't be kicking around your van or lost somewhere. So without further ado, now we're going to go outside and we'll get the prep done on the door for hanging. To keep the door stable within the frame, there are two things. There are brushes on the left and right hand side to hold it in place. Also, it's held on with the runners and top jaw on two pairs of wheels. But right at the very bottom of the door, there's a little plastic insert which goes just inside the frame here. And this is designed to stop the door from traversing sort of left and right as you pull the door in and out. So the next stage here is to get this router. I've marked in 5mm wide, 50mm deep, 2 or 3 passes, and get this groove cut in the bottom of the door.
Now it's time to drill a 5mm recess into the bottom of the door for the door track. You can now start to prepare your door with the hanging kit provided. Mark 150mm away from the end of your door on either side. Then offer up these hangers to the centre of your markings and mark your screw holes. Then attach these hangers, ensuring there is no protrusions. Next, install your door stops on the opposite side of your hardware. Please refer to the paper instructions for possible blocks you may need to add depending on the size of your door.
So by now the door's been fully prepped for hanging. Hangers at the top there, the stops left at the top and bottom. We've got the mortise bathroom lock installed. It's now been fully plasterboarded, plastered, it's now dried. So the next stage is to remove these 2 spaces here. And then inside here we've got a galvanized sheet. This is removed by drilling out these soft aluminium rivets. They can be taken out and recycled. And then the next stage at the very bottom here is to insert that small plastic door guide, running guide at the bottom. So in here we've got these polystyrene spaces, just really to preserve the integrity of the door in case it gets knocked and bashed around. And like I said earlier on, you have that little slot here, and if you're to simply post your little component parts into there while it's being plastered, at least that way you know when you get back here in a couple of weeks' time, all the bits you require are actually inside each door here. So all we need to do now is simply remove these. They're a bit tight, but they're just there to, like I say, just to preserve the integrity of the door. They're held in with a little tiny bit of tack. Okay, so we've now got the metal removed and the internal polystyrene removed, and the next task is to get this floor track guide which will then correspond with these 2 holes here. Now, within your kit as well, you're going to get these little spacers, and they quite neatly fit one inside the other and will then fit into there to give you a packer. So the idea is if your finish level differs from where it is now, you can use these to pre-pack. For our purposes here, I'm simply going to install it without the packers, but these are there. So if you wonder what they were, they're simply there to pack the door out. Now we've got the guide in place. Next thing is to get all your door jambs cut and installed. So we're going to do these 2 here, left and right, which can in effect hold the brush kit. And also going to do this one here on this side here. We're going to get the door installed, and then we'll put the hangers on. All your door jambs are supplied oversized, so you're going to have to cut them down yourself.
Begin by measuring your door jambs by offering them up to the frame and scribing a line. Ensure you cut off the end that doesn't have the dowel holes in. We will be installing the door jambs into the shallow pre-drilled opening, which will allow the jambs to be flush with the plasterboard. Next, you need to mark 4 screw holes around 100mm across your jamb. This will allow you to connect the frame to the jambs. Then mark 2 mm from the edge of the pre-drilled opening at all 4 measurements. We recommend using a countersunk drill bit to ensure the screws fit flush with the jamb. Now insert the included brushes into the jamb kits and trim off any excess with a sharp Stanley knife.
So we've got the cut the size, got the dowels on top, we've marked in, we've drilled a clearance hole, we've countersunk it. So the next thing is to get some self-tapping screws and just fix these onto the frame.
On the track, you will see an opening next to the wooden end piece. Insert both hangers into the track, ensuring the securing clip is facing towards the wooden end piece. Now, place the retaining hook into the track. This will be moved at a later stage.
So before we fit this final door jamb on this side here, we're going to get this door hung. And on here we're going to be adjusting for the height, for the finished floor level. Obviously if we adjust it left and right, we can adjust it for being plumb, sort of being sort of square edged. So give me a little bit of faffing around here while you sort of get yourself happy with it. So we're going to hang it, adjust it, get it right.
After inserting the right one, lift up the door slightly and insert the left one, slowly and carefully. This can be done with one person. We recommend having 2 people to make sure there's no damage to the door. Once attached, test to see if the door slides correctly. First, similar to before, offer up the end piece and mark off the excess. Ensure the dowel holes are on the bottom. Once measured, cut off the excess using a wood saw. Ensure sizing is correct, then line up the recess in the end piece to the end track. Next, drill 4 screws into the gaps in the end piece to attach it to the wooden piece behind. Ensure they are buried into the gap so they do not interfere with the rubber seals. Then push in the rubber seals to hide these screws. After installing the rubber seals, it's now time to mark the retaining hook. Close the door fully and make a mark where the door ends. Now move the retaining hook to that placement and screw into place. Finally, cut the top piece with the same method as the door jambs by measuring, cutting the excess and creating a countersunk hole. Then install the dowels and attach the end piece and screw in place.
We're now going to be moving on to the striker plate, which we need to get fitted into this side of the door here. So need some fairly careful consideration with this one here. So if I was to open this up fully so you can see what's going on.
With the lock extended, you can see there is a flat area to the lock that hooks into place. Offer the striker plate up to the face of the lock and align the top screw on the face and the top of the striker plate. Ensure the hook can move freely. Next, mark off the bottom of the striker plate and follow this marking around the edge of the door. Mark the corresponding line to the end piece, and this will give you the bottom of your striker plate measurement. With this now in the correct placement, mark both screw holes and the opening for the hook. Using a sharp Stanley knife, cut around the lock. Once happy with the markings, begin to drill out and chisel the opening for the hook and the shallow recess for the striker plate itself. Please take your time with this process to achieve the best look possible.
As with all pocket doors, when that door's fully pushed back and is on its stoppers, you sort of can't really get and grip anything on the door. It's a bit sort of, yeah, you get your fingers in there. And this is why we have this thing called sort of an edge pull. What we do is we get a 25mm bit, we'll cut off all, probably using a little bit of glue adhesive, we'll tap it in there, and what we'll do is you'll then pull the door to close it. As you can see here, we've got a single screw here which will allow you to release this for further maintenance. And as we close the door, hope you can hear or even feel how utterly silky smooth that runs.
Thank you for watching this video. If you need further information or want to buy a Screenio pocket door, please head to suffolkpocketdoor.co.uk. Or if you need any help with your installation or just advice on what pocket door solution to buy, please give us a call. Thank you.